Welcome, everybody. I'm Thomas Coyne, professional survival instructor to some of the most elite organizations and individuals in the world, and this is Survival in the News, where we explore survival situations that made headlines and discuss what could have gone better, what could have gone worse, all to benefit you, the viewer. So, welcome to the news log. We're going to begin with a strange yet tragic story that occurred on Mount Whitney here in California. If you're not aware, Mount Whitney is the tallest mountain in the lower 48 states, and people come from all across the country to summit it. Now, it doesn't take any technical gear or anything like that. You just hike to the top, but because of its elevation and the steep terrain, it can be very dangerous. Now, as always, we are not here to judge, but to learn from the incident so it does not happen to anyone now. So here's what occurred. A young 15-year-old man, an athlete, someone who's run triathlons and all this, summited the mountain successfully with his father. However, on the way down, he began to run into trouble, suffering from hallucinations, even saying he saw Kermit the Frog and his friends to his father. He's telling his father nothing is real, none of this is real, and he eventually walked off the edge of a 120-foot cliff. Miraculously, he did not die. He did, however, wind up in a coma. So as I said, on the way down, he began to suffer hallucinations, and he told his father about this, and his father tried to get him to take a break. They stopped, they took a nap, he seemed a little bit better, and then they kept going, but things got worse. Now, luckily, there was a bit of what we often refer to as a trail angel. There was an EMT coming down the trail that offered to assist. So let's talk about what happened. So we can only speculate, but this sounds like he was beginning to experience HACE to me. That's high altitude cerebral edema. What that is fluid buildup on the brain. So the brain begins to swell up, and then all kinds of bad things happen, like hallucinations like this, and it can be fatal. You want to catch something like this early. Some of the early signs of HACE are ataxia and headache. Ataxia is lack of coordination. They begin to lose their balance. Now, of course, hallucinations like this, not knowing where he's at, this complete disorientation is a much more rare sign. But when we see the brain being affected and we're at high altitude, it's best to err on the side of suspecting HACE. Now, the best thing to do is descend at least 1,000 feet immediately. The thing is, though, with HACE, they may not be able to walk on their own. They may be too uncoordinated, or in this young man's instance, suffering from things like hallucinations. So they may need rescue. So of course, this is 2020 hindsight, but I would say if you are coming down a mountain with someone that says they see Kermit the Frog and his friends and nothing is real and they're hallucinating, stop, keep them still, and call for rescue. And here's the thing, when they did call for rescue, it took 6 hours to arrive. Not every county has, 5-10 emergency helicopters that can fly up and get you. When terrain, a busy rescue season, things like that, all hit at once, it can take a long time. And that's why we say, even if you have cell phone reception where you're going, even if you can call 911 right away, always carry a survival kit when you're heading out to the field. Because even in this case where they were able to call for help immediately when this occurred, it took 6 hours. So they had to take care of this young man at the bottom of a cliff themselves. And again, luckily that trail angel showed up and tended to the young man. Now, again, he did live. It's something of a miracle. His age and fitness probably had something to do with that, and he is out of a coma. So this one had a bit of a happy ending. Now, remember, catastrophic falls like this one are one of the primary killers in our national parks, in our wildlands. And that leads us into our next story, a miracle wrapped in a tragedy where a pet cat survived an over 300-foot fall off of a cliff in Utah. What happened here was the owners had the cat in a backpack and they crossed one of these marked barriers. This is a common occurrence, far too common occurrence in Yosemite, actually. People try and get better views of the waterfall for a better pic, a better selfie. They climb over a marked barrier and they are no more. And it happens all too quick. In this case, they crossed the marked barrier. They fell off the cliff with the cat. And 300 feet later, tragically, the pet owners did not survive. However, the cat did. Now, the sheriff said they weren't ruling anything out. So we don't know if this was intentional. The victims were 45 and 58 years old, respectively, and living out of a U-Haul. So life was probably not that great, but we don't No. So what can we learn from this? Again, never cross a marked barrier in one of these high areas, by these waterfalls, by these cliffs. I know the view is beautiful and we want to get that perfect picture, but it is not worth your life. Your loved ones need you here. And of course, if you have friends or family that you haven't heard from for a while, okay, that may be going through some dark times. I know it sucks to deal with other people's stuff, but isolation is a really big indicator of depression. So you just giving a call to that aunt, that uncle, that friend, someone that you served with at one point in the military or fire service or the police department, reaching out, give them a call, say, hey, I was just thinking of you. How you doing? Love to get together sometime. That could actually save a life. You can be someone's hero. Story number 3, I want to end on kind of a happy note. And this one is a bit of a miracle, if I do say so myself. And if there's any writers out there, hey, Disney, if you're watching, we have an idea for your next movie. You're not going to believe this one. A 2-year-old boy was lost overnight in the mountains of Arizona, and it set off a massive search. Get this, the toddler managed to travel 7 miles before being found in the wild in a ranch in Arizona, Sellington, Arizona, by the rancher's dog. Now, temperatures got into the 40s that night, which could easily end the life of an underdressed 2-year-old. However, this rancher's dog was a 160-pound half Anatolian shepherd dog, real shaggy. And you know what that dog did? That dog kept that boy warm all night. The 2-year-old curled up with the dog and saved himself from hypothermia. And if that's not enough, at first light, the dog walked the boy back to the ranch. So the rancher looks out, he sees the boy and the dog coming, and he instantly knew who it was. That has to be the 2-year-old missing boy. He contacted authorities right away, and the parents came and got the boy. Now, I know what you may be thinking, but there were no signs of foul play. This was just an incredibly strange, and again, I'm going to use the word miraculous incident. Call it serendipity, whatever, but this was absolutely incredible. Now, what can we learn from this one? A lot. For all you parents out there, I want you to look up the Hug a Tree program, and I want you to teach your children the 4 basic principles of this program. This program was started by search and rescue professionals who were on one of the biggest searches in California's history, which turned into a body recovery, unfortunately, where they found a young man deceased. They did a ton of research, and the lessons they learned have saved countless lives since. So here are those 4 principles that every parent should teach their child, especially if you live in a rural area or like to visit wilderness areas like this beautiful one here. First, tell them to always tell an adult where they're going. Never leave the house without letting an adult know, and to not deviate from those plans. 2, do not discard any clothing. It can be hot in the day, but it gets cold at night. So tell them, hey, if you take your jacket off, you take your shirt off because you're hot, keep it with you, tie it around your waist, because if they're stuck overnight, that could save their life. 3, tell them if they ever do become lost, the second they realize, hey, I'm lost, I'm scared, stop and hug a tree. Stay by that tree. The more they wander, the farther they get. That toddler made it 7 miles in Arizona, okay? These guys, if you're a parent, you know they can wander pretty far. So tell them, once they get lost, stop and hug a tree. That way they don't get more lost. We don't have to expand the search area so much, and the tree can actually provide shelter. The needles and leaves on the forest floor can help provide ground insulation, can protect them from wind and rain, and this can also save their life. 4, if you hear your name being called, always respond. Let them know if they get lost and they hear adults calling their name to call out. You're not going to be in trouble. We just want to get you home. Don't worry, this time, no punishment. You see, this is to counter a behavior that many young children have engaged in when they got lost in the outdoors. Maybe they snuck out, maybe they weren't supposed to be out in the woods that day, and they're afraid. They're afraid that they're going to be in trouble. So they hear strangers calling their name, and they say, this man is here to punish me. I'm going to get in trouble with mom and dad. So let them know, if you ever get lost, you hear someone calling your name, this is your one get out of a grounding free card, right? Call out. We just want you to get home. That's more important than anything to us. All right, everybody, this has been the first episode of Survival in the News. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something. And if you see an interesting survival story in the news, send it over our way. You can reach us at info@CA Charlie Alpha survivaltraining.com. CAsurvivaltraining.com is the web address to my website, Thomas Coyne Survival Schools, where I've trained every branch of the United States military except Space Force, of course. There's no friction fires on the moon. Thank you for watching.